NFL free agency has calmed down, so today let's do our post-free agency mock draft presented by Underdog Fantasy. Now in this mock draft, we are going to be doing 2 rounds as well as doing some trades. So this is going to be a longer video, but I'm going to try my best to keep each pick pretty self-explanatory. We're not going to do anything too crazy, but we're going to have some fun with this. We are starting off with the Chicago Bears. This one is the most obvious pick in the draft. It's going to be Caleb Williams. If you think it's Drake May or Jaden Daniels, you're just simply wrong. Pick number 2, the Washington Commanders. These are probably the 2 picks that are the safest to not get traded. I've heard some rumors that Washington would listen to some trade offers. In this situation though, they're not trading it at all. I think they're going to take Jaden Daniels in this situation. I'm personally more of a Drake May guy. I think Drake May has incredible upside. That being said, Jaden Daniels has been speculated to go to Washington for quite some time. I think that will be the move. Now we get to pick number 3. In this situation, I've heard different various reports about how the Patriots feel about Drake May. Some people really like him in the building and some people don't. In this situation, if you're the Patriots, I would seriously consider trading back with the Minnesota Vikings, who have 2 first-round picks. The Patriots need to acquire talent, whether it's a receiver, some offensive line help, something on the defense. They need the help as much as possible. I think they're going to run it with Jacoby Brissett this year and then next year go all in on a quarterback. In this situation, I would trade the 11, the 23, and more than likely one of these picks here. We'll just go with 157 and a future first to move up to pick number 3 and pick number 137. This is a pretty big haul. 3 first-round picks and pick 157 for pick 3 and 137. But in this situation, you're going to have to make a massive trade up here to get your quarterback of the future. And let's be honest, Vikings have a lot of really good pieces already set up there. If you're Minnesota, you already have some connections inside the building with Drake May. You take Drake May, you pair him up with Justin Jefferson. That's a good pairing in my opinion. Then you have the Arizona Cardinals at 4. It is almost penciled in at this point. Marvin Harrison Jr. Pick number 5 belongs to the LA Chargers. If Minnesota wasn't able to trade up to pick number 3, this would in my opinion be the spot for them to trade up at. In my opinion, if I'm the Chargers, I'm actually calling Minnesota to try to make this trade. That being said, they still could potentially trade with a team like Denver, but my one thing with Denver, they don't have a 2nd round pick to add to this LA Chargers roster. I do generally believe that Denver's not going to make a big time irrational decision at the quarterback position. However, the Raiders do need a quarterback, and there has been some speculation about JJ McCarthy going here. I've also heard some rumors that the New York Giants are interested in him. Could be interesting. I don't really like the idea of them just completely shipping off Daniel Jones immediately, but JJ McCarthy does have a lot of supporters within a lot of different buildings. I'm going to do a trade here. I just don't know what team. In my past mock drafts, I've had him picked at pick number 12. It does not seem like he's going to be making it out of the top 10. The Giants have been rumored and in some recent rumors to go out there and get a JJ McCarthy. Again, I don't really like that idea for the Giants, but I can also see it. With the Chargers having a lot of different options here, I'm going to have them trade back with the Las Vegas Raiders though. Again, I don't see Denver trading up. I just don't see it. So we'll go with the Raiders here. We're going to pick 13, pick 44, and a round 1 pick next year for the 5th round pick and pick, let's just do 140. We're going to force this trade here. Las Vegas Raiders will get the quarterback of the future in JJ McCarthy. Giants on the board here could have taken McCarthy had he been available here. He is not available. So in this situation, you take the best wide receiver that you guys think is available. I'm personally more of a Malik Neighbors fan over Rome Odunze. I also think Malik Neighbors fits a bit better with what the Giants do. I'm going to go with Malik Neighbors to the New York Giants. Pick number 7, the Tennessee Titans have been uber aggressive this offseason, fixing up their cornerback room with L'Jarius Sneed and Chidobe Awuzie. That's a very good cornerback duo. Offensive line is a bit of a needy position. They fixed up some positions, such as the center position, but they're going to need a left tackle in the future. Joe Walt is genuinely that guy. Now, before I get to pick number 8, I want to give a special shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest and fastest growing fantasy sports app available. I know the NFL season may be over, however, Underdog has plenty of ways to entertain us while we wait for the new season. You may not know this about me, but I am a massive NBA fan, and with Underdog's Pick'em games, I can earn some serious cash. Simply pick higher or lower on 2 to 5 player stats, and you'll have a chance to win up to 20 times your money in a single night. I personally love playing these Pick'em games on game day to spice up my afternoon. And all you have to do is use the link in the description below to sign up today using promo code MetroSports, and you can get your first deposit doubled up to $100 as well as an instant Pick'em special. Check the map on the screen right now to see if your state qualifies, and I want to give a massive thank you to Underdog for sponsoring today's video. Now let's move on to pick number 8, which belongs to the Atlanta Falcons. They got their quarterback of the future. They've also added guys like Darnell Mooney, so wide receiver is not the biggest position of need. Now I've heard some speculation that they're not the biggest fans of Dallas Turner. I'm personally a pretty big fan of Dallas Turner. I think he has the highest upside in the building. But with that being said, because they've potentially made claims that he's not their number 1 edge rusher, I would assume that Jared Verse would likely be that next guy. He's a versatile edge rusher who can create some pass rush, really good as a run defender as well. I would like that pick there for the Atlanta Falcons. At pick number 9, they've already addressed the Caleb Williams or the quarterback position. They've already addressed the wide receiver receiver position with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. Do you take a Brock Bowers here? Maybe. I just think Cole Kmet is a very solid tight end, so I wouldn't necessarily do that. But there's a couple really good edge rushers still on the board here. Potentially what you'd be looking for is to find a running mate next to Montez Sweat. And I think Dallas Turner could be that guy next to a Montez Sweat. Really good pass rusher, but also has been pretty solid as a run defender as of late. Next up, you have the New York Jets, who just brought in Mike Williams, and they also brought in Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses. So they've been pretty aggressive in trying to find guys to help this offense out. They do need a safety, but this is not the draft to get a safety. As of, number 10, they could potentially take one in the second round. They don't have a second round pick, so maybe we'll bookmark that and have the New York Jets trade up to get a safety, because that safety room does need some work. With that being said, Rome Odunze is still here, and he's kind of like a Mike Williams-like player, but he's also a lot younger than Mike Williams, hasn't been injured as Mike Williams, has a lot more talent at this point in his career. There's also a Brock Bowers pick available here. You do have some decent tight ends on the roster, but it's not necessarily somebody that would prevent me from taking a Brock Bowers. I will say Aaron Rodgers really has never been too needy of a tight end, but because you already have Garrett Wilson, you just took Mike Williams. I think Brock Bowers could be the guy here. You could take an offensive tackle in this situation, but because you already kind of addressed them with Tyron Smith, some of those other positions, and because that's a pretty deep offensive tackle class, I think you can probably wait in this situation. So I'm going to have them take Brock Bowers here, because I truly do think that he could be more of a weapon than what you might realize. He's a really good creator of separation. The Jets kind of need that separator alongside Garrett Wilson. You already have your deep threat guy with Mike Williams. You still have Alan Lazard, who I'm sure they're not going to give up on yet. So I'm going to go with Brock Bowers here. At pick number 11, Rome Odunze is still available here. I don't think he gets this spot, but because he is, I think it's pretty obvious. The Patriots will probably go with a wide receiver here, because no quarterback has really fallen to them. At pick number 12, you have the Denver Broncos. Again, I believe they're going to stick with Jarrett Stidham at quarterback position. If a JJ McCarthy was here, I think that could be the pick, but he's not. They have some good players on this roster, but nothing that, in my opinion, just overly impresses me. I wouldn't hold it against them for them to trade down. The question would become like, okay, what team would trade up? It'd probably be a team that would need a cornerback, but I don't, I look at a lot of these teams, and I just don't see any of these teams being super aggressive in trying to trade up. I think that this is a loaded draft class, so you can just stick at your own spot and just take whoever you want. Denver probably would like to fix up some of their issues along the offensive line, but there isn't anybody who I would just gush over. The interior defensive line for this team isn't bad, but they don't have a Byron Murphy-like player. I don't know. This is a tough spot here. I'm kind of tempted to have them trade down, but I just don't know what team would trade up with them. Like, Miami could be an aggressive team at trading this offseason, but they have a ton of problems, and I just don't think that trading draft picks would be the smart way to go about things. Could Arizona be interested in trading up maybe? I mean, they have pick 27, and they can maybe send a second round pick to move up to pick number 12 to take the best corner off the board here. I'm actually going to do that. Pick 27, pick 35, and a future second for pick number 12, and we'll just do like, I don't know, pick 121, right? Because you're not moving up too much, so I don't think that they're going to be costing them a first round pick, but you are moving up 15 spots, but you're giving them 2 top 35 picks and a second round pick next year. They can stack up to even take even more players. We're going to do this one. To me, if you're the Arizona Cardinals, you are in kind of a position where if you could take the top corner on the board here in any of these 4 guys here, because at pick 27, you're more than likely not going to be able to get one of those guys. You've already taken Marvin Harrison Jr. You fix up your other side of things. In my opinion, in this draft, Quinyon Mitchell, to me, peaks out as the best corner on the board here. So we're going to go Quinyon Mitchell to pick number 12 to the Arizona Cardinals. I haven't heard any speculation that they would trade that pick, by the way. I'm just kind of throwing a shot in the dark here. Pick number 13 now goes to the LA Chargers. LA Chargers have a lot of holes to fix. Wide receiver is one of the bigger holes in their roster. You've already traded down. Do you take a Brian Thomas Jr. in this situation? Maybe. You do have pick number 37 as well. This is also an offensive line that does a lot of work too. In this situation, there's some pretty good offensive linemen still on the board here. Do you go with the Tyrese Flaga to play at your right tackle spot? I kind of like that. I also like JC Latham here as well. He kind of fits that prototypical LA Chargers, Jim Harbaugh style offensive tackle where he's just an absolute bruiser. So we're going to go with JC Latham here at pick number 13. I know that wide receiver is their biggest position of need, but the wide receiver class is just loaded. You can wait to the second round and take a Roman Wilson, which Jim Harbaugh would kind of make some sense, to be honest with you. Pick number 14, the Saints need offensive tackle help pretty badly. Tyrese Flaga is still on the board here. My opinion, one of the best offensive tackles as a pure run stuffer or run blocker and pass protector. He's very solid overall. He could also kick in at guard if you need him to, which they don't need him to, but they could if they needed him to. Pick 15 belongs to the Colts. They need cornerbacks. They typically do like more athletic guys. There isn't really, besides Nate Wiggins, Wiggins, the guy on here who I would take as an athletic freak. Like Cooper DeJean's pretty athletic, but he's not Nate Wiggins athletic. So we're going Nate Wiggins here to the Indianapolis Colts at pick 15. Pick 16 belongs to the Seattle Seahawks. They've lost a lot of interior linemen. You could take a Troy Fautanu, move him into guard, but I think he's going to stick to tackle. Jackson Powers Johnson is the most interesting one because you can play him at center, you can play him at guard. They really could use that versatility. I know that this is a defensive-minded team now, but there's already a lot of really good pieces on that defense, so we're going to take Jackson Powers Johnson to solidify the offensive line there. Pick 17, again, this is a spot where you're probably going to take a either interior offensive lineman or a corner. I think corner is a bigger need for this team. Taron Arnold could be your Jalen Ramsey-like player, so we're going to go with the most similar player to what Jalen Ramsey was at Florida State, which would be Taron Arnold in my opinion. Next up, pick number 18, you have the Cincinnati Bengals. This team did just bring in Trent Brown to be what I would believe to be the right tackle spot. You don't really have a top tier corner on this roster. You just lost Chidobe Awuzie. You still do have some really good players in that secondary room. You're not going to take a tight end here. T. Higgins has requested a trade, but I think he's just trying to get a contract at this point. There's a lot of really good tackles on the board here. Do you go with a Byron Murphy here to be your DJ Reader replacement? But I like that. Yeah, you know what? Byron Murphy here. I wasn't initially thinking that, but Byron Murphy could be a good run stuffer up the middle, but really is more dynamic as a pass rusher, but you're not going to take him off on first down. He's still quality at that as well. Bengals could use that interior pass rush. 19 belongs to the LA Chargers, or sorry, the LA Rams. You just lost Aaron Donald. That sucks. You could use an offensive tackle here. Olufashanu is still on the board. You do have a lot of really good pieces already on this defense though, but I think corner has to be, you know, a top priority for them. You did bring in a Darius Williams and a Cameron Curl. That being said, it wouldn't stop me from taking a Cooper DeJean here, in my opinion, to really solidify that secondary to get even better. I know you would like maybe a Jerzon Newton here, but he's not Aaron Donald, so let's not pretend like he is here. Pick number 20 belongs to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would love this team to take on the tackle. Last year you had Broderick Jones. Now you fill in at the other tackle spot. Olufashanu to me is the best tackle on the board still. Olufashanu would be a very good pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I do think he will fall in the draft, so pick 20 to me seems about the latest that I think he'll go. 21 belongs to the Miami Dolphins. You've lost a lot of really good production along your offensive line. You're probably going to be losing Connor Williams. Troy Fautanu could be that plug and play tackle, guard, center, really wherever you need him, he can play. Philadelphia's done a really good job at filling in a lot of their needs. They brought in Devin White, which you still need to look to address the linebacker room more. You brought in Bryce Huff. You're probably not keeping Hassan Reddick, but nothing new has popped up there yet. With the way the cornerback room has fallen here, do you take a Kool-Aid McKinstry? You probably do. You have Darius Slay, you have James Bradbury. You do have a couple guys beneath those guys who could step up to fill in and play even more snaps, but Kool-Aid McKinstry to me is a very underrated player at this stage of the draft cycle. Overall grade of an 88.8, only gave up 205 total yards last year. He's aggressive, he's smart, he's a productive player. I feel like he gets dropped in a lot of mock drafts, but I don't really know why. He's a really good player. Pick 23 belongs to the New England Patriots. They've already taken a wide receiver in Rome Odunze at pick 11. I kind of think now you go best available. Could you take a quarterback in this situation? Maybe a Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. are both available. You could take one of those guys. I just don't know if the NFL is going to value those guys enough to take them in the first round. I have a hard time. Like, I've seen people say, like, oh, how could you have Bo Nix or Michael Penix not go in the first round? It's just like, I just can't see it. I just can't see it. This is a Patriots team that does have a lot of really good positions filled. They could go offensive tackle here. You already lost Trent Brown. Maybe you would like to fill in the other spot. You already have Michael Onwenu. So Amarius Mims does make some sense here. He does play that right tackle spot, so that could be interesting on how you would work out the offensive line, but he does have really high upside to be a lockdown tackle of the future. I know some Patriots fans might say, just take Bo Nix. I'm not going to. Pick 24 belongs to the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys have a lot of major needs to fill in right now. You can see right here, running back, wide receiver, tackle, center, defensive interior, linebacker, cornerback. Those are all genuine needs for the Cowboys. Maybe not cornerback to the extent, but a lot of needs for the Dallas Cowboys to fill in here. I don't personally love Tyler Guyton. He played right tackle spot. Dallas needs to fill in at the left tackle spot. I do like Graham Barton here for Dallas. He has versatility, can play the center, can play the guard, can play the tackle. He kind of seems like the Dallas Cowboys prototypical players. Graham Barton here to kind of shore up the offensive line attack. Pick 25 belongs to the Green Bay Packers. Defensive interior could be a big piece to add here with Jerzon Newton. Ideally, though, I'd like to find an offensive tackle next to a guy like Zach Tom. Tyler Guyton, to me, would be the best offensive tackle available on the board still. He does play right tackle, so you'd likely have to move Zach Tom to left tackle. So you're going to take Tyler Guyton here. A bit of a run here on offensive tackles here. Actually, 5 within the last, 6 picks. So that's how quickly they got dried up here. At pick 26, you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Last Last year, you took Kalijah Cansey. Maybe you go Laiatu Latu here to fill in at the edge rusher spot. You did trade some of your cornerbacks away. I don't know if you take a TJ Tampa or a Mike or a Kamari or Ennis Rakestra this early into the draft. Laiatu Latu has some seriously good upside. Maybe not explosive, but very good technically. This is where I think Bo Nix falls here. Pick 27, Bo Nix. You traded down in this situation. Maybe not for a quarterback, but you still got the one that you probably would have liked. 28 belongs to Buffalo. They need to find a wide receiver next to Stephon Diggs. Brian Thomas Jr. still being on the board here makes a lot of sense. Detroit Lions have filled in the offensive line spot with some pretty good players like Kevin Zeitler, so I don't really know if the interior is the biggest need. I would like to see this team add a pass rusher alongside what you already have. You could even go cornerback with some of the recent news on one of their cornerbacks, who I'm not going to name, getting cut and now having a warrant for his arrest. Check out my most recent video, by the way. We're going to take a quarterback here to fill in at that spot. I like Ennis Rakestra a lot. Has some injury concerns, but could be that plug-and-play starter at that cornerback spot. Next up, the Baltimore Ravens. Odell Beckham is likely not going to return. You still do have some pretty good wide receivers, though, so I don't know if wide receiver is the biggest need. You've lost a lot of offensive lineman production. Morgan Moses, one of your guards, is left as well. Do you take a Jordan Morgan here to fill in at that tackle spot? That wouldn't be the worst idea. You've already addressed a couple of your spots already. Do you go with an Adonai Mitchell here to add next to Zay Flowers? Maybe. I mean, you already have another guy you took in the first round just a few years ago. Adonai Mitchell seems to me like the fun pick here. You could even go cornerback with like a Kamari Laster. I don't think TJ Tampa's first round pick, by the way. Jerzon Newton, I don't think he falls out of the first round, but he might in this situation. I'm between Jordan Morgan and Adonai Mitchell here. I'm going to go with Jordan Morgan. This is a that typically likes to fill in at the offensive line spot and prioritize protecting your stars. So we'll go Jordan Morgan. Pick 31 belongs to the San Francisco 49ers. With the way the board has fallen, honestly, it hasn't been a very, very good fall for them. You could go cornerback here, but there isn't one that I think you need to take in the first round. Do you go best available? You just lost Eric Armstead. You do have the dude you picked up last year, who I'm blanking on his name, but I know he's a good player. Didn't have the greatest year last year. Do you go with the Jerzon Newton? I think you do. Again, really no good offensive linemen available. No good cornerbacks who I would take early on, so I think you take them there. You could also take an Adonai Mitchell, but you still have Brandon Ayuk on your roster, so we'll wait and see on that one. Adonai Mitchell to the Chiefs. Makes a ton of sense. I don't think I gotta explain that one. Atlanta pick 33, probably would have liked to have seen him there, but Ladd McConkey is just a separator. Could play as that wide receiver on your roster, could be your Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp-like player. I know that that's an easy comparison because he's white, but he's like that. He's just like that. Pick 34, the New England Patriots pick. Listen, if you're a Patriots fan, you're probably pretty content here with taking Michael Penix. In this draft, by the way, Rome Odunze, Marius Mims, Michael Penix. I think I did the Patriots pretty damn good. I think I did. 35 now belongs to the Denver Broncos, who took Bo Nix in the first round. Would probably want to get a wide receiver next to Cortland Sutton in this situation. I like Roman Wilson here, a guy who can create separation by himself. You don't really need a Keon Coleman per se. Getting a Roman Wilson to me, who by the way is somebody who I could see going round 1, to me makes some sense. Washington at pick 36. Early in the draft, they took Jaden Daniels. You've already fixed up a lot of your offensive lineman positions. Do you go out there and get a tight end like a Jatavion Sanders? Maybe. You already pick up Zach Ertz to be somebody. You could also go in the edge rushing room to find somebody next to Dorrance Armstrong and to Chop Robinson or Darius Robinson. I think I'm going to go down that route here. Chop Robinson has a freaky athlete, so I'm gonna go Chop. At pick number 37, we have the LA Chargers again. LA Chargers have been on the move in this draft. They picked up JC Latham with their 13th overall pick, and now they're back up at pick 37. They'll also be back up at pick 44 with the Raiders' second round pick, so they can fill in a couple spots here. You fixed up your tackle position here. They could take the best wide receiver here available, which in my opinion would be Keon Coleman. He could be your Mike Williams replacement, essentially. And hopefully Quentin Johnston can turn into that Keenan Allen-like player, which we'll see. But you know what? You'd have a lot of size in your receiving core, that's for sure. Maybe they could even take a slot receiver here at pick 44. We'll get to that eventually. Tennessee at pick number 38 filled in the cornerback spot pretty well, filled in the wide receiver spot pretty well. You took your offensive tackle. I think maybe now you just kind of go best available here. In my opinion, edge rusher could be a position of need here. Darius Robinson could be a fun pick, so I'm gonna go Darius Robinson. He's a very good edge rusher. Not necessarily somebody who I expect to get 10 to 15 sacks, but will be productive along that defensive line for the Tennessee Titans. Carolina Panthers back up at pick 39. They took Ladd McConkey already. Now I think you address the tight end position with Jatavion Sanders. I've been kind of making this case that the Jatavion Sanders to the Panthers thing needs to become a reality because it could be pretty fun. Pick number 40 belongs to the Washington Commanders. You've already addressed your quarterback position. You've already addressed an edge rusher position. Kind of think you just go best available. You did lose Cameron Curl, so maybe you go with a guy like a Tyler Nubin. They did already take Jeremy Chin, but I don't think it would hold me back from doing that. You did lose Kendall Fuller as well, so maybe you go somewhere in the secondary. Who is the most prototypical Dan Quinn style corner here? I think Kamari Lassiter, maybe. I even think Renardo Green could be a bit of like he could be taken a little bit higher than we have him ranked as, but I'm gonna go with Kamari Lassiter here to the Washington Commanders. You have Emmanuel Forbes, who can be your Trevon Diggs. Now you need your lockdown guy like a Stephon Gilmore, quote unquote. Kamari Lassiter could be like that. Packers, you took Xavier McKinney. Do you find a running mate in a Tyler Nubin? Maybe. Tyler Nubin, to me, I don't know how to describe him. Tyler Nubin is somebody who is a good run stuffer, good run defender, more of a box safety who you'd want to have in a guy next to him who can be more of a free roamer. I think you put him next to Xavier McKinney, that could be a nice little combination there. You've already taken your offensive tackle of the future with Tyler Guyton. Now you get your safety of the future. I think the Packers would really like that here. Houston, who was traded the first round pick, I don't really love that idea, but you did, has been pretty aggressive. They got Daniil Hunter. This is a team that could use a Blake Cashman replacement. Peyton Wilson would make some sense here. Kind of a similar player to Blake Cashman. You could even go wide receiver, but I don't think anybody who I would take over Peyton Wilson, so we're gonna take Peyton Wilson to be your Blake Cashman replacement. Pick 43 belongs to the Atlanta Falcons, who took Jared Verse with their first pick. I think now you look to address the cornerback room. You did lose a corner who I am blanking on him right now, the Houston Texans, but you could go corner here. Again, I don't really know if there's any corner who I would take off the board this early. I really like Renardo Green. Of these three corners here, I like Kyrie Jackson the most, but I'm gonna go with the Michigan roots here. Atlanta likes to take a lot of Michigan players. I just made that up. I actually don't know that. Chargers back up at pick number 44. Chargers took Keon Coleman, and they also took JC Latham. So they fixed up some of their offensive problems here. I did mention earlier that they could potentially take a more speedy weapon, and a guy like an Xavier Worthy would make some sense. Ricky Pearsall to me is a super underrated player. With Xavier Worthy running that 4.2, this is a team that could use that speed. So we're going with Xavier Worthy. All right, pick 45. The Saints already took their offensive tackle of the future with Tadis Flaga. I think now you look to address something in the wide receiver room. You already have Chris Olave, so maybe you could use a taller receiver like a Troy Franklin here. Do I like that? Yes. Do I love it? No. Xavier Legette. Massive. Freaky. Massive. A lot of good upside. Not my favorite receiver draft, but he's huge. And I think he has that DK Metcalf-like size to him that a team like the Saints could use. Colts at pick 46. Pick 46. Colts took Nate Wiggins in the first round, so you don't really need that. Colts have a really good roster, to be honest with you. They don't really have a ton of glaring needs. They could use a corner, but you already took Nate Wiggins, so you don't really need that. Wide receiver, you already have Josh Downs. You already have Michael Pittman. They could use tight end, but there isn't a tight end who I'm taking in the 46th year. This is a trade down spot for me. Acquire more picks. We talked about it earlier. I know the Jets don't have a lot of picks to work with here. Jets need a safety badly. I think you take 72, 111, and a third round pick next year for pick 46. And it got accepted. Jets now take the best safety on the board here, which would probably be Javon Bullard. I also do like Kalen Bullock as well, but I don't think he goes in the first or the second round. Javon Bullard probably will go the second round. Jets get their pick. Unfortunately, the Colts won't have a second round pick, but they will have some pretty good draft capital next year. Giants back up at pick 47. Thus far, the Giants have taken Malik Neighbors, and that is it thus far for the Giants. I thought the Giants had more picks, but I guess not. You can see a lot of these picks as of late have been traded. So Giants could be a team that could even trade back for even more picks. You took your receiver of the future. No really good quarterback who I'm taking to be my Daniel Jones replacement. You already have your center position figured out. You've already brought in some Brian Burns. You could look at I think we're going to go somewhere on the tackle room. There isn't an offensive guard. I mean, Christian Haynes, maybe. Zach Frazier is your prototypical center. We're going to take Zach Frazier here. He does have some experience with being a versatile lineman. I think you move him into a guard position. You already have John Michael Schmitz, so you don't really need that center position, but maybe you move one of them around. I think you take Zach Frazier to be a versatile interior offensive lineman because they've addressed it somewhat, but I think they could even use a younger player in that position too. Jacksonville took Taron Arnold earlier in the draft. I think now you look at that offensive lineman position. Kingsley Suamaitai, to me, is the best player on the board here. However, they don't really need tackles per se, so Christian Haynes could fill in at a guard position somewhere along that offensive line, so we'll take Christian Haynes there. Cincinnati earlier in the draft took Byron Murphy, filling at the interior spots. I think you're going to take Kingsley here. I don't think he'll start next year, but I think behind a guy like a Trent Brown, he could be your future right tackle. Pick 50 belongs to the Philadelphia Eagles. They need to address the linebacking room pretty desperately still. Edgerrin Cooper still being available. Junior Colson, Jeremiah Trotter. Really honestly pick your poison here with whoever you want. I'm going to go with Junior Colson because he's more of your traditional inside outside linebacker, whereas Edgerrin Cooper is kind of a pass rusher than anything, which I don't think this team really needs. Pittsburgh back up at 51. They've taken the other pick. They went with an offensive tackle. So in this situation, you probably want to find a wide receiver replacement with what you're losing out on the receiver you traded to Carolina. In this situation, I really like Ricky Pearsall and Troy Franklin. You already have size there, so I think you're going to go with a guy like Ricky Pearsall, who can be more of your slot receiver, kind of your replacement for what you lose. LA Rams back up at 52. They took cornerback earlier in the draft. I think now you look to add what is, in my opinion, the best pass rush or the best upside interior defensive lineman in Chris Jenkins. He to me has the highest upside of any defensive interior player. I do like Brandon Fisk a lot though. I think he's going to be taken off the board here pretty quickly. Philadelphia back up at pick 53. You've addressed your cornerback position with Kool-Aid McKinstry. You fixed your linebacker position with Junior Colson. I think now you look in the safety room a tad bit with Jaden Hicks or Cameron Kitchens. You could go TJ Tampa. He's more, I believe, like a slot corner, but I think you're okay there. It says wide receiver. I don't get that at all. Devontae Smith, AJ Brown. What more could you ask for? Maybe you go with an offensive lineman, but I don't think there's anybody here. I think you're gonna go with the safety here in Jaden Hicks. Maybe not the fastest guy in the world, but he could definitely pack a punch. He's a good tackler, secure tackler, which is something that last year Philadelphia really struggled with. You don't have Kevin Byard anymore. You now move Jaden Hicks into that position. Maybe a little early for him, but I think it makes sense for a team like Philadelphia. Washington State isn't the big name school that they typically go for, but I could see the pick there. 54 belongs to the Cleveland Browns. Braden Fisk. Dude is a special freak athlete. He could be legit next to Myles Garrett. Miami back up at pick 55. You lose out on a lot of really good players. You lose out on Xavier Howard. You could use some safety help now. Use a lot of things, but you also lost Christian Wilkins, which is a massive blow. None of these guys are Christian Wilkins per se, but of all of them, I like Rook as a pure pass rusher more than the rest of them, so we're going there. Dallas needs running backs. Jonathan Brooks is the best one available. 57 Tampa Bay. 57 Tampa Bay is an interesting spot here with Latu earlier. Could use some corners. I think we're going to go TJ Tampa here. I'm not the highest on TJ, but I don't hate him either. Was a pretty productive player throughout Iowa State. We'll go TJ Tampa here. You lose Carlton Davis, you now get TJ Tampa. All right, I am now on the right side of your screen, so you guys can see the rest of the board here. Green Bay is back up. Was taken. I gotta keep looking back and forth because I keep forgetting. Tyler Guyton and Tyler Nubin. Do you go cornerback alongside Jair Alexander? Kyrie Jackson could be a fun one, maybe. They could maybe use a run stuffer inside the middle. If that's the case, then Tavondre Sweat makes a lot of sense. I think I'm gonna go Tavondre. I kind of talked myself into it. We'll go Tavondre. 59 belongs to the Houston Texans. Texans took earlier this Peyton Wilson to fix their linebacker position. Haven't really brought in a big name defensive interior, but they brought in a couple guys. Don't like any of these guys here. Chris Braswell, I think we're gonna take him here. I'm not the biggest Chris Braswell fan, but as a pass rusher to learn from Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson, I think it could make sense. You want to just continue to add depth in that position. I know they already have a couple guys, but I like the idea of adding a high upside player to be the future behind Daniil Hunter for the next couple years. Very raw player, needs to develop. I think he can develop in that system pretty well. 60 belongs to the Buffalo Bills. You already took a wide receiver in Brian Thomas Jr. You got a lot of positions to fill here, including offensive linemen here. I'm gonna go with Kyron, and I'm not gonna say his last name. Could be your tackle of the future. I like him a lot. Detroit Lions went with Ennis Rakestraw Jr. earlier. Now I think you need to look to find an edge rusher alongside what you already have. Adisa Isaac and Braylon Trice to me stand out the most, but I'm gonna go with Adisa Isaac. I'm a big fan of Adisa. I wish I could have probably found him a little bit earlier in the draft, but I'm okay with him being to 61. Baltimore went earlier with Jordan Morgan. This is a team that could use some wide receiver depth. I'm gonna take Troy Franklin. I'm not the biggest Troy Franklin fan, if you guys couldn't tell. San Francisco went with Jerzon Newton earlier. This is a team that could really find some offensive lineman help. Not a lot of great second-round offensive linemen here, but you could go Blake Fisher. Versatility options here. 2-year starter at right tackle. We're going to go with Blake Fisher here. Kansas City went with Adonai Mitchell in the first round. You do lose out on L'Jarius Sneed, but that roster is just super well. I'm going to go with Kyrie Jackson to be your L'Jarius Sneed replacement. And that's going to be the draft. And that is going to be the draft. As you guys can see on the screen, this was our mock draft. And if you enjoyed the video, hit the like and subscribe button. This is our 4th rendition of the mock draft. So if you want to see my pre-free agency mock draft, go ahead and click somewhere on the screen. But I love you guys. Peace.